Alright guys, welcome. Yes, as Jade said, my name is Tim, and we're going to step back in time and follow, I guess, what is humbly my journey to today. But I want to sort of almost plant a seed in your brain as well, because it's interesting for me to reflect on the journey so far. I believe my journey started with curiosity, alright? It was sort of this feeling in my gut, this little voice in the back of my head, and I sort of had this idea in my head. And when I was in China in 2001, I saw this billboard and I said, what's he doing that I'm not? 2001, and I was kind of interested in that time of sitting on a beach. So what I decided to do was introduce what's called my why. So I came up with my purpose. Why I do what I do, right? Work with me on this. So in 2002, I drew this picture, and I was doing a business course at the time, and the instructor said, just draw what you want to imagine. So I drew a trailer. This is a box trailer, and this guy up here, and this box trailer had a satellite and some computers and some files. It had some gear and some tools, and this guy was nomadic. He had a laptop and a camera. I had this idea that I wanted to travel around Australia pulling a trailer and teaching people about the digital world. Anyway, I had a purpose, and my purpose was to help bridge the digital divide. I do believe that a lot of people in regional, rural and remote Australia are falling behind. They're falling behind because the digital world is moving so quickly. So I spent a little bit of time out in the bush, and I soon established that, you know, there's school of the air and some pretty antiquated computers. But either way, I recognised there was a problem. So then I had my why to bridge the digital divide, and then I had to create my where. Alright, so your where is where you want to be in 5 years. It's called a vision. A vision. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Alright? And so I created my where. I created my vision. And my vision was to develop a tribe of digitally engaged Australians. And then I dug in further, okay? And I developed my what. See, your what is what's called a mission statement. And I wanted to develop the digital skills and confidence through education and experience. All right? So your how is how you do things. How you do what you do each day to get where you want to get to fulfill your purpose. Your why, your where, your what, and your how. Those 4 words are critical when I look back on where I am today. And so what my how is that I want to be trusted. I want to have empathy, which is, you know, thinking about other people. I want to have a bit of fun. I want to be educative, and I want to be innovative. So now I've got my artillery. I know where I want to go, what I want to do, how I'm going to do it, because I know my why. And my why was to bridge the digital divide. Alright, so I added some energy, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, maybe some, some Barocca or a can of V, and I set to work. In 2004, I started my mission by educating people out on cattle stations. So I worked for 2 years out in the bush, and it was such an amazing experience. And I remember we had classes at night time after we finished mustering, and these guys even went out and bought laptops. I went and got my truck driver's license. I thought, well, I'm going to drive a cattle truck, and I went and got that. I obviously went out and mustered some cattle and branded some steers. I also learned how to play the harp, which was interesting out there. And I met some of the old characters in the bush. They were fun to hang around with. And of course, I rode a steer. Why not? All right, so I got all that under my belt. And I'd spent 2 years in the bush, and then I said, nah, I want to go see the world. So I put on a backpack, and out I went. And I had an amazing experience. I spent nearly 3 years on the road, backpacking and looking at everything I could find. From backpacking around Nepal, to travelling around China, to speaking in Chinese schools, to visiting Mount Everest Base Camp, to going to India and taking it all in. And when I got to the UK, I got this job. There was this ad in the newspaper and it said, we want someone to go around England educating people about Australia. I'm going, bonus. So I applied for the job and I got it. And I spent the next year travelling around England doing presentations about travelling around Australia and New Zealand. It was a wild job. I had a great time. You know, speaking in front of people, telling them about Ayers Rock, telling them about the Great Barrier Reef, showing them how, you know, I lived on a cattle station and all that stuff. Then I got the call from Dad. Tim, mate, what are you doing with your life? I don't know, I'm travelling, Dad, I'm having a good time. Well, would you want to come home? I said, oh, all right, what are you thinking? He goes, well, I'd like you to come back and work on the farm. My dad's a dairy farmer and I lived in the city with Mum, but Dad bought a dairy farm and I hadn't really considered being a dairy farmer and I thought, oh, well, why not? So I spent the next 6 months getting some money together and I finished up buying 25 cows while I was living in London. I arrived back to Australia and I jumped into the dairy and I started milking the cows. Well, my background was marketing and IT and milking the cows was good, but wasn't doing it as much for me as I wanted. So what I ended up doing was blending my computers with cattle or with dairy. And I ended up getting involved in a lot of media and marketing about e-business or e-farming. And it was interesting to see where I sort of planted, because I actually got asked to be part of YAPS, Young Agribusiness Professionals. And I sat on the board and I wrote their vision and their mission and I developed their brand, and I was able to apply my marketing brain, and I also built their website as well and created lots of videos, and it was incredible. But it still wasn't enough. So in between milking, I started up a business in town, and I remember milking the cows, getting out of the boots, having a shower, then screaming into town and opening up Design Experts. So I milked in the morning and I built websites during the day. It was interesting to see the combination. But all the time I planted a vision, a mission, a value. And I love to draw stuff. I'm a visual person. So in 2008, I created a map of where I wanted to go. I drew a picture of a box trailer. In this case, I wanted to, by 2013, have 1,000 websites. So in 4 years, I wanted to build 1,000 websites, which is basically 1,000 customers. I also wanted to have 1,000 domains, 4 studios and 10 agencies. And what was interesting is I chipped away at that. The team got bigger and I had 2 studios, and by the time I was done, I had 18 staff working for me. We ended up being Victorian Business of the Year, and I was quite humble at that. And I always had in the back of my mind this idea of being the trusted educator. So when I built a website, I educated the customer. I spent time in showing them how things work. A bit like how I showed you today how VR works. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. I love that saying by Gandhi. So the company was called Design Experts. I sold Design Experts. It had 1,000 customers and I sold it for over $1 million, and I was happy. The sale wasn't as good as it could have been, and I had to almost start again. And I created my new company called Think Digital. Think Digital is all about education. We're not necessarily building websites anymore. We're not building apps. I'm showing people how to use the digital world to enhance their lives. And I've been travelling around now for about 18 months having a good old time. It doesn't even feel like work, because I know my purpose, I know my where, I know my what, and I know how I'm going to do it. So far I've delivered over 2,000 workshops. That's a lot of workshops if you want to add those hours up, and my team's getting bigger by the moment. We've got 5 trainers going around Australia. They're in 4-wheel drive, some of them, going out to visit remote places. We're always looking after the regional, rural and remote person. We're not necessarily diving into the cities. I've been to a lot of places. I'm not stopping. I haven't even warmed up, to be completely frank, but it's incredible to look back on all the places we've visited. My team go around and show people how to use iPads and how to stand in front of the customer service and use them as part of their business in Australia Post. I've spoken in front of 200 people that are on devices, educating them how to Google and things like that. Now, look at that photo there, and let's go back just 12 months, because that was about 6 weeks ago. So we go back 12 months, and I believe where the mind goes, energy follows. Flows, depends on how you like to word it. Where the mind goes, draw a picture, take your mind to it. Have a purpose. I know my purpose, it's to bridge the digital divide. So, there was a question on Facebook that said, what would you do if you won a bus? On Facebook, and I went, in 25 words you had to enter it. So I said, oh, I'll give it a go. So I typed it in and I said, well, I'd create a classroom and travel around Australia educating people about the digital world. Submit. Anyway, they contacted me and they said, we love your idea. We looked at your photo and you've got yourself a bus. I've gone, oh my God, I drew a picture of a box trailer with a satellite and a guy travelling, and suddenly it all just became reality. So I got this bus and I went out to Hoover-Cooney and I just let it loose. No, I didn't. I ripped out the seats with my old man and we spent a fair bit of time in getting the bus ready for what I thought was going to be a classroom. And 6 weeks later, lots of hard work, bang, we created a classroom on wheels. And so it's been incredible, travelling around to the outback and to these remote areas on board Rocky, the Think Digital coach. There's the satellite, look at it. I mean, it can't be it's just too much, isn't it? I drew that picture in 2001. 15 years later, it's right in front of me saying, Tim, you're on purpose. Stay on track, mate. It's a feeling. It's a voice in my head that tells me to keep going. So out I've been, travelling around. The media love it. Oh, that's what you're doing. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? We travel around and we have a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, the serious side is that I'm educating people about the digital world. We're visiting remote locations that don't get this ever before. They're getting left behind, but if Rocky can keep them going, well, Rocky's a bit of a metaphor. He's from Rockhampton, and that's where I run the bus. We educate businesses how to use iPads. We work with companies and teach them how to build websites. We teach people that live on cattle stations how to repair their computers. We put people in virtual reality. We put businesses in virtual reality. We're doing all these wonderful stuff with AR, which is augmented reality. People have never touched this stuff before and they're aboard the coach. I remember this fella, I put him in VR and I put him around all these sheep. He goes, oh geez, they're big bastards. And so, you know, having a guy like that on my coach, I love it. I go to universities and work with university students on lab level. And when it's too big for the coach, off we get and we go inside a room and we keep building. It's incredible to look back on some of the faces. I recognise them all. Bringing up augmented reality on a piece of paper. Teaching Sonia, who lives here in Emerald, I don't know if you know her, but she has a born country baby. She augmented her t-shirt, so you hold your phone up to her t-shirt and it comes to life. You know, it's pretty impressive to see what we're doing and how we're doing and the lives we've touched. Every time I look at these photos, I remember that time in Queensland when I went out to that high school. I look at that and I look at Swan Hill and remember that when we went into the classroom. This one was at Longreach School of Long Distance Education, teaching them how to use digital technologies. This one here was in Geelong, working with some vet students. And we work with hundreds of small businesses, all designed to educate people about the business, about the digital world. And have a look at this. This is the pinnacle, I think, for me. This is on a dairy farm. The coach rocks up. The dairy farmers come on board the coach and I put them into some VR. I work with migrants as well, teaching them that they can learn English, but they better learn the new digital literacy. They need to learn the digital world as well. We've even had campfires on side of the coach and we've had hundreds of people outside watching outdoor cinemas. So the Think Digital coach is filling up with goodness and I'm on purpose because I know my why, my where my what and my how. So I've been to Birchip and I've been over to Cooma, I've been to Backer-Burke and I've been to Tambo. I've had a look at Byron Bay and I've had a look at Alpha, and then I was at Longreach. It's been incredible to park outside these places. I remember going into the Longreach School of Distance Education and working with 50 home tutors, teaching them how to use it back on their stations. So the Think Digital Coach is more than just a bus. You know, we're on a crusade here. We're here to bridge the digital divide. So I put all my brain together, everything that I've done over time, and I came up with a concept called Farm VR. I didn't know if it was going to work, but it felt good because I had a voice and a feeling. So I followed it. And so I started filming VR content using this camera over here. This camera is a 360 camera, and a lot of you guys would have seen this outside. This camera follows me like a person now. I look at it and I think that there's someone always watching me. This camera, I just turn it on like this, and now it's filming the fan, it's filming you, it's filming you, it's filming me, it's filming everything. I haven't pushed go yet, so don't stress. But when I film, I think of it like a person joining me. And this camera has been into some pretty impressive places. Yesterday we put it up on a drone and it flew over a pivot. And when you've got the headset on, you're actually flying over the pivot. It's pretty cool. When I go to these shows, people put on VR. They've never seen VR before, but I'm coupling it with agriculture. I'm not putting them into a roller coaster. I'm putting them into a dairy farm, into a shearing shed. I'm putting them underwater, showing them how salmon are born. It's been amazing to see all the different reactions over time as I watch these people flying above cattle. People who have never had the chance to step into a dairy, and we're bridging the digital divide here. All of this is regional, rural and remote Australia. You know, you don't have to be a kid to enjoy VR. It's been really interesting to see the kind of characters that put these on. Even the media love it. They believe it's the next generation of learning, a virtual learning platform that immerses students. You guys put it on before. You were very engaged. I was watching you. So we've had about 2,000 to 3,000 people put that headset on now, and we're only 1 month old. This is taking off, and I want you to be on purpose. So, am I on purpose, do you think? Do you think I speak with conviction? Do you think I know my why, my where, my what, and my how? I don't know. Let me have a little look. Well, first of all, my why. So, Farm Virtual Reality was launched in Rockhampton about 2 months ago, I think. And Farm VR bridges the gap between city and country. Serious? I didn't write that heading. The media did. What about building a tribe? Am I building a tribe of digitally engaged Australians? Well, yesterday we filmed here at the QATC at Emerald College. And so I've got a tribe of teachers producing content now, not me. I've got a tribe of teachers doing this, and then I had a look else and I said, oh my God, I just learned Gippsland Digital the other day. And I was training up all of these teachers to educate people about the digital world. So suddenly it's not the Tim Gentle show. Suddenly it's educators empowering Australia and raising the digital knowledge and competence. And I'm not even doing it anymore. It's just happening. So the journey definitely continues. If you want to follow me, I love when people follow my journey and keep in contact. I've got a Facebook page, and all you have to do is look up Think Digital Coach on Facebook. I'd love if you could join it, and if you want to make a comment on my Facebook page or make a review, that kind of gives me a bit of a warm fuzzy as well. So, I think what we're going to do is do one quick 360 photo. I'm all done on my presentation. I just trust that you find your why, your where, your what and your how, and live a life that potentially I've lived. Alright, so we're going to take a photo, everybody. And then this camera can see you, it can see me. On the count of 3, 3, 2, 1. Now, well done. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you have a good life. See you.
And that's a wrap.